To speak on the topic of trauma surgery as a career choice for women, we have a very distinguished female surgeon in our faculty. She is a professor and chair of the Division of Surgery at Stellenbosch University and a chief specialist surgeon at Tegeberg Hospital in Cape Town. She's also a subspecialist trauma surgeon and the trauma director at Christian Barnard Memorial Hospital and heads of the renal transplant program. She holds several positions in South Africa, including being a board member of the Health Professions Council of South Africa, the Council of the College of Surgeons, the Association of Surgeons, and executive committees of the South African Transplantation Society and Surgical Research Society. She is a co-editor of several handbooks of trauma and has had the privilege of lecturing on trauma care and trauma surgery in many countries worldwide. She is passionate about teaching life-saving surgical skills and also about the prevention of violence and injury and about developing effective trauma care in Africa and around the world. Please welcome Professor Elmin Styne.
Right, so I'm talking to you about trauma surgery as a career for women. Now, I have no disclosures, except that I may have some opinions that people may not like, but that's tough. And I would like to thank the Asian Collaborative for doing so much more than just organize webinars. I think you play a huge role in creating awareness and in educating people and bringing together a lot of people on the Asian continent, but always the rest of the world as well. So well done, and it's an amazing privilege to be here. So I would like to speak about the choice of trauma surgery as a career for women. And I chose the topic, is it a sensible career choice? But first of all, I need to tell you that sensible, who wants to be sensible, really? So is sensible the goal? Is that our goal in life? You want to be a woman, you want to be a surgeon, you want to be a trauma surgeon. Sensible doesn't come into it. So do I change, or are you going to change my slide for me? Please, thank you. So in fact, sensible should not be the goal. You want to be a trauma surgeon, fine. It's going to be tough. It's going to be interesting. But it's not going to be sensible, that's for sure. And trauma surgery is actually growing in popularity. There are many obstacles, we know that, and in fact, the obstacles are much publicized. If you look at publicity or articles published on trauma surgery and women, or even just surgery and women, you will find endless articles on discrimination, abuse, obstacles, challenges, bias, and all the difficulties. And unfortunately, those are the ones that will be in the journals. And in reality, we all know that the challenges and rewards of surgery are there for women and men. Everybody has challenges. Men have families too. Everybody is experiencing the same rewards and the same benefits of being able to help people who are acutely injured. But there is no doubt that women do have some stressors and some less than ideal options or choices to make compared to men. And some of these stressors are gender equity issues, all sorts of issues, workplace culture issues, which vary from workplace to workplace, as one can understand, and then the personal life and family life. These issues have been demonstrated and researched and published and discussed endlessly. Next slide, please. Well, some of these studies, example, this one was interviews with both male and female surgeons and focused a lot on the issue of microaggression. Now, microaggression is small comments that are made within the working environment, usually not intentionally, but subtly insulting or negatively reflecting on somebody's background, and it's usually gender-based could be also race-based or culture-based. And this is something that gets a lot of attention in certain countries and in certain setups. There's education, there's discussions in the workplace on a regular basis, trying to change the culture of the seemingly innocent little joke that is just dropped. But it seems to be something that it's not easy to eradicate, because it does stem from people's deep-seated beliefs and biases. So this study reflected that these kind of stressors actually take up a lot of energy of the women who feel that they are affected by this. It states that it decreases the mental space available for people to do their work well. Implication is that if there is an environment where there's microaggression or gender-based bias, that the people who are experiencing that bias are less able to do their work, because these are stressors that take up mental energy, and that there is something that can be done about it. So I have no denial that this is true, that there are these workplace situations, and I have seen it myself, how people can be so insensitive and come up with these ridiculous little comments about women surgeons, women's abilities, and not even understand that it can be offensive. But I must say, we have to get over that. We have to get beyond that. If every single woman who wants to be a surgeon is going to be caught up in looking out for microaggressions, reporting microaggressions or bias, or reporting obvious discrimination and trying to not make it part of your being, then we really do need to find a way to deal with it and move on. Our biggest goal should be moving ahead. Second of most importance is that these people who are backward in not being able to deal with women in the workplace, that they should be punished or retrained. Our managers should be doing that, our hospital managers, our academic management, they should be working on these things. But for us as surgeons in the workplace, women in training in surgery, this is a part of life that will occur. It is not good. It is not right. It needs to be reported, but it should not hold you back. I see a lot of women who are so caught up in these frustrations that they absolutely forget to move on. Next slide, please. And at the same time, there are quite a few interesting publications on the contradictions that women feel and experience. And this particular study was done not by medical people, but by marketing and business study group. And they noted that surgery is a high status profession dominated by men. And I like this, saturated with masculine ideals of heroism and manual skill detachment. So what it's saying is that to want to be a surgeon is characterized as a male thing because it involves being a hero, being heroic, being brave, being manually skilled, and being able to detach yourself from the emotional issues and human issues in the situation. And yet, the researchers comment that surgery both represses but also requires caring work. So surgery, like medicine, requires us to be caring, but the masculine image of the surgeon seems to be an image that needs to deny the caring side of the work. And in a way, women are accepted into the ranks of surgery because it is accepted or felt that women will then provide this caring aspect. Next slide. And that caring aspect could also be the caring that needs to be shown to staff members and to students and so on. And at the same time, this caring aspect of the work is deemed invalued, not so valuable, and sometimes invisible. This is not my thoughts. These are the thoughts of the management and marketing team who investigated surgeons' account of repression in the workplace. Well, what can we say about that? It may be true, if the researchers have found this to be true, but in reality, we must understand that there's contradictions and duality in duplicity in everything we do. And it is not a strange thing for women to be duplicit, to have more than one aspect to their personality. Women can be kind and caring and sweet, but they can also be very, very tough. Most women I know are extremely tough, and most women I know have had the need for and the ability to deal with life and people and events in a very aggressive way if needed. Women can protect their young. Female animals are really good at that and notorious for that. Women can do really well for their patients because they can fight for their patients. Women are not averse to toughness. And I've often heard the quote, I may look nice, but I'm very, very tough. Don't mistake my kindness for weakness. And we need to make people understand that even though we can be kind, it doesn't mean we're weak. And so these are the contradictions that we live with. And that is what a trauma surgeon and a woman in surgery will live with. And it's okay. It's okay. We don't have to dwell on this all the time. It's complicated. We keep going. We know what to do. We know what we want to do. We want to care for our patients and we want to be good surgeons. And that's not complicated. Next slide. The issues around the world, it's very interesting how different countries can be, and yet so much is the same as well. This is a study that showed the experiences of female surgeons around the world. And bottom line is the country income did not predict gender equity in surgery. So even high and low income countries found a lack of gender equity sometimes. Cultural norms definitely influence experience of the women surgeons. And then something in general, all populations, lack of mentorship was seen as a serious barrier to training in surgery. And especially in high-income countries, it was found that as soon as there's a critical mass of women in surgery in a department, in a university, or in a country, female surgeons find it much easier to enter the profession. But most interestingly, female surgeons in Japan found that they were very limited by the fact that they didn't have family support, especially in terms of having children, while those women surgeons in low-income countries were not so much constrained by lack of family support, but definitely constrained by cultural attitudes. And my personal comment on that is it really only in low-income countries where there's a cultural issue? I think that in high-income countries like Japan, like the US, there's a cultural issue as well. And really, we should not be constrained by cultural issues anymore. This is the glass ceiling that I think we should be looking at. Culture is something that needs to change. It can change. It will change. Culture changes for many other reasons. Over a short period of time, culture can change. And women should not be held back by cultural issues. The motherhood issue is something completely different. You do know that children need attention. They need a mother. But let's face it, there are lots of women surgeons who have children, and they've got good, normal children. They've managed to bring them up with the help of family, by hiring assistants, by having good husbands, good partners who can contribute. The bigger obstacle there, it may be culture in some countries, but women are feeling guilty. They're feeling guilty because they think they're not doing everything they can and that they've chosen their career or their patients above children. That's nonsense. Stop feeling guilty. you are entitled to do something that you really enjoy, and to give good surgical care is much more than doing something you enjoy. It's doing something for patients, and they need you. Your country needs you. Guilt is very destructive, and we can move beyond that as well. So I think that the cultural ceiling is much more important. But next slide. The career ceiling is another barrier that is published on quite significantly. And it is frequently noted that women surgeons perceive that there's both conscious and unconscious bias against them when it comes to advancement in the career. Equal pay, that is an issue, definitely. I think we can fight for that. But the career bias, or the gender bias in the career, it is true. It does exist. But there's also a very big component of how we ourselves are creating an impediment for ourselves because of the perception of gender bias, and how gender bias can be used against us, but we are also, or gender issues can be used against us, but we are also creating bias in ourselves by constantly referring to gender bias, by constantly complaining about gender bias, constantly investigating and quoting gender bias. Frankly, I think even just using the word female surgeon or female trauma surgeon, which I have used, we shouldn't even do that. We're just surgeons. We get the same training. We have the same job description. We have the same duties. We have the same patients. We are all surgeons, whether we're women or not, makes no difference. However, it is true that women surgeons, many don't have children, and that male surgeons do, but they're not married to women surgeons. The practicalities are still there, but there's no doubt that we have choices. Right now, at this time, in this century, we have options, we have choices. And if we choose to have children, there are practical ways to deal with that. Next slide, please. So why do we want to do trauma surgery if there's so many published obstacles in the world? If the whole world says it's tough, why do we want to do it? And I think that there is a shortage. There's very good numbers in the US. Many of those states have very few trauma surgeons, so there's a need. In Africa and in low-income countries, there's a need for surgeons, and therefore women can step in to take up that need. And a lot of trauma a lot of surgery in low-income countries is trauma-related, so there's definitely a place for training women. But there's also another aspect to this, and that is that the field of acute care surgery has shown that there is another way to deal with emergency surgery, and that is on a more shift-based working environment, a type of lifestyle which may be attractive to certain women surgeons, so that if there's a shift-based work environment, people know when they will be able to go home, and they have exact hours, and they can plan better. There's a downside to shift work as well, because you're not always taking care of that patient which you started off operating, or the one that you resuscitated. So that's the downside. But there are practical ways, and therefore women who want to do surgery as a career, especially in trauma, may find a place that fits their lifestyle for at least a period of time when they want to have time at home as well, and that they could find a shift system working really well for them. Next slide. So it's time to say that we need to stop this I can't or the negative approach. We need a can-do approach. So lifetime of lessons learned. You want to be a surgeon, you want to be a woman surgeon, you're going to be scrutinized, you're going to be criticized. People are going to look at you as a mentor, and people are going to look at you as a competitor. People don't like people who are standing out. Somebody who's doing really well will always be looked at and looking for something to criticize. So we want to be a trauma surgeon. We have to do it really well. You have to prove yourself. Yes, go ahead. You are special. You can prove yourself. And you can prove yourself by working hard, by being on time, being efficient, being organized, being well prepared, and all in all, taking good care of your patients. Nothing can compete with that. Next slide. There is a very interesting thing about surgeons, and that's what other people say about surgeons, is that they are egotistical and arrogant. Well, yes, they may be. Sometimes they have to be. And I strongly believe that we need to manage our own egos. All surgeons have egos, there's no doubt about it, and so do women. But that doesn't mean we can't be kind and caring and humble and take criticism when needed. We also need to be team players and team leaders. And for that, we don't need to be arrogant. We just need to be confident. We need to be assertive. Not a bully, but somebody who can sort out a problem, take the bull by the horns, take the team forward, and save a life. And ultimately, the bottom line, it's not about our egos and our personalities and ourselves. It's about doing the best for the patient. It's about the patient. It's not about me. Next slide. So all in all, a lifetime of surgery, a lifetime of trauma surgery. I have had the privilege of teaching in many countries, of meeting many people, of working in many countries, and of working in many different environments in my own country. And I can tell you now that the story about work-life balance is a fairy tale. In surgery, and especially in trauma surgery, there's no such thing. There is the thing of work-work balance. Yes, you can balance your work a little bit. Work-life balance is not something that you can strive for all the time. Sometimes, yes, you need to have a life outside of work, but it is going to be difficult. And you need to enjoy your job so much that you really actually don't mind being at work. Being yourself is the most important thing. And when you're working in all male teams, nowadays it's not like that anymore. We have lots of women around. But when I started as a surgeon, a trauma surgeon, it was men. And it was not, it was quite hard to be female, feminine. But we can't be men. We can't pretend to be one of the boys. We can just be ourselves and bring that perspective to the team. Yet it's fun to work with the boys. It's fun to be in a male team. It's fun to be in the company of people who are surgeons, men or women. And that will always be part of the job. Lots of wise words we've heard from the previous speakers, and I thank them for that, and I agree with everything they've said. I'm happy not to repeat, but I certainly support that. And one of the most important things is communication. Can resolve anything with communication. Speak nicely to somebody, you get something done. Sort out difficulties without delay. But stand up for yourself and your patient and your team. And then be confident, be brave, but be kind to everybody, the team, the patient, the family. Complaining is not going to get you anywhere. Forget about the bias. Forget about the discrimination. Yes, it may well be there, but it's something that your management should sort out. And you can't afford to help have that hold you back. Don't mother other people. Because you're the only woman in the team doesn't mean you're the one who has to make the coffee. And above all, take good care of yourself. Trauma surgery is a very tough job. It needs people to be able to rest. It needs people to sleep well. You need to eat well. You have to take care of yourself and have a good partner. I think those are the most important parts of how to succeed in trauma surgery. Thank you.
Irene Lo, who is actively involved in trauma and surgical training. She is currently the Trauma Director of Hong Kong Hospital Authority, Kowloon Central Cluster, and a consultant surgeon at Queen Elizabeth Hospital and Hong Kong University and Chinese University HK. Please welcome Dr. Irene Lo.
Oh, thank you so much for your kind introduction, and I love the presentation from Dr. Styne, which provide an extremely valuable insight about a female being a surgeon. I had a lot of echo inside me. I graduated in 1990s, and by the time I joined surgery, I was the only female trainee and colleague inside the team and the whole department. So I was definitely being questioned, being doubted about my character, my attitude, my ability, you name it. And but at that time, physically, I did realize that I might be a little bit less masculine than my other colleagues, but I was so just certainly about myself spiritually and mentally that I committed and devoted myself to hard working. I'm well prepared. As you said, I'm always on time to show respect to other people, and I'm studying hard. And so I train up myself physically a little bit to top up my masculinity on top of my femininity, you know. And as times went by, I start to realize that as a female surgeon, I actually had an inborn, a certain degree of advantage of being maybe more caring, and I can offering a little bit more comfort to my patient, especially when they are female patients. And when the area falls into the breast surgery or colorectal surgery, and some of the patients, they end up choose to tell me more about their private things, and which can actually make me can be more holistic to provide my care. And there is one interesting story. One day, my senior praised me a lot because of my female-sized hand in doing a splenectomy. Because he found me very useful with my smaller hand so that I can squeeze my hand into the left upper quadrant and get the spleen out. And from that moment, I think, oh, I'm very skillful and can be more advantaged than my male colleague, which had a big hand. All right, so I promised myself work as a being, regardless of my shape as a female. So I work as a surgeon of efficiency, effectiveness, accuracy, with my passion to save life and to help my patients who are fragile. And I am the one be determined to figure out what is best for my patient. You know, personal life, family life, emotional stress issues, male colleagues will face the same issues and they face the same challenge. It is doesn't matter be it a female or male. It matters is the ability to deal with stress. So if we have confidence and we know we are well prepared, no frustration, and it makes no difference between male and female sex in the working field. Anytime as a female, we can even be better. We are tough too, as you say. This one I can agree no more. You know, yeah, we are tough, and we can be at the same time kind, caring, and to bring the advantage of our feminine side. And but doesn't mean that we are weak. We are strong and tough. Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Styne. I hope that for those female medical student or trainee that are thinking about their career pathway, the words from Dr. Styne is really very enlightening and can be a great reference to all of you. Thank you very much.